Welcome back. You are here with our Master J, and today we are doing a comic book review of ISOM 2, the second installment from Rippaverse Publishing and Mr. Eric July himself. I know I'm a little late to this review, but I figured with Alpha Core 1, Yaira 1, ISOM 3, Gooding, and like 3 more books that Eric has been talking about coming out, I figured to make sure I had everything covered that I still do this review even though it is a little on the late side. So let's jump right on into this. ISOM 2 starts off right where ISOM 1 left off, and we jump to Altona heading into work at Projexis, where Darren is actually waiting in her office after some unpleasantries and a little bit of physical violence. The CEO of Projexis, Lincoln
Eusebio
comes in and ends the situation and sends Darren on his way with a little bit of a going away present. Lincoln later that evening also finds himself in a bit of predicament where multiple parties have turned on him, who we assume is Darren's gang members. But it seems that Lincoln has a little special up his sleeve as he purposely crashes their car and seems to be flying away scot-free, but we shall see. Also, there is a little Yaira sighting at Projexis, which I feel is going to lead into future books. We then find out Avery's backstory. Why did he quit being a hero? Why did he leave the streets to protect people? And it was because he wasn't able to protect everybody from a monster, specifically Chardon. Avery has finally made his way back to the farm. And as we left off in ISOM 1, Sam went into the security area with his gun drawn. We didn't really know what happened. Well, we find out there are 2 hairy monster beasts hiding in that area to jump ISOM. He takes an injury. They explode into fire and set the building aflame, all while not knowing where Sam is. We then get introduced to Gooding, a jack of all trades and a helper to those in need with some very high-end tech, who's going to be, I think, a very vital character to the ISOM storyline and to the Rippaverse overall. Gooding has Avery come to his grounds to see if he wants to hire him for additional assistance. Gooding then suggests that Avery take a trip to meet one of his special friends. That special friend, of course, is Bloodruth, the blood-wielding, cowboy hat-wearing, monster-wrangling, beastmaster lady. Is that where we're going to go? Yeah, we're going to go with, yes, that's how we're going to describe Bloodruth. After discussing some things with Avery, feels like she knows what these monsters are and where they might have sourced out from. They head to that location and find a absolute colony of these monsters. Avery, ever the hothead, seems to just barge straight in, guns blazing, punching anything he sees, allowing Bloodruth the ability to do a little snooping to end up finding Sam, who also seems to have a few special abilities by the glowing tattoos on his back and his ability to survive to this point at all. And they escape out using Bloodruth's capabilities as Avery continues to just bash away and then explode launch. I'm not exactly sure if he's just launching away or he's actually able to now use the exploding ability. It's a little unclear exactly what takes place there, but it does continue to show evidence that Avery seems to be able to mimic things he sees. It happened in ISOM 1 briefly, and it seems to have happened here, but it's a little hard to tell exactly what takes place. And then we get the final scene with the biggest of bad angry monsters saying it is time to finish these humans. So that's where ISOM 2 left off. It's a chunky book, about 100 plus pages of pretty much all story. There is only like one minor side plot where we cut to Alpha Core for a second and them talking about the investigation behind Yaira. So we get a little bit of insight to that. But other than that, this is the ISOM story. It goes from Altona, and because she got poked her nose into Darren's business, he got himself involved with that. Then there's a little bit of the retaliation against the CEO, who seems to have a bigger role within the Rippaverse. And then we get Avery returning to the ranch, finding the monsters, having to find Sam, having to do that investigation, meeting Bloodruth to get to Sam to, again, fight the source of where these beasts are coming from. Quite a bit happens over the course of the book. It's really good pacing overall to the story. ISOM 2 again brings in a lot of new characters. Specifically, we get Lincoln, the CEO of Projexis, Gooding, we get the old monster in Chardon, we get these beasts, oh, and of course Bloodruth, And those new characters are essential to the ongoing story. Whereas ISOM 1 kind of just threw some characters out there that had nothing to do with anything, just so you kind of knew who they were. So that was, I think, a little bit better done within ISOM 2 versus ISOM 1. So again, this book is building a lot of intrigue, make you keep asking questions about what's going on. ISOM 2 did answer some things that I think were open from ISOM 1 while introducing new items, which is a great way to kind of keep people engaged and want to come back to continue reading the stories as they come out. So some of those questions that I think it brought up are, what are these dimensions? And are we talking just traditional like concept of heaven and hell? What is Projexis? Like, what do they make? What is their product form? Where's their research? Who is the CEO? What is Darren's endgame? Right now he just seems to be wanting to make more enemies. What do these monsters even want? They're all in that cave. They seem to be attack Sam. They came after Avery. What are they there for? What is their purpose? What was the dividing war that apparently happened in Texas? I don't know if it's a Texas secession war or some sort of other outbreak war that took place. What's the backstory behind that? Where is Bloodruth from? Who is she? What is she? Where is she getting all these dimensional creatures that, she's a beastmaster over? So again, this book is building a lot of intrigue. It will be interesting to see if we can continue to develop these characters to have a lot of depth. So one of the great things that Eric has done is bring in other talented writers to develop other characters within the Rippaverse world, specifically Alpha Core with Chuck Dixon, Yaira with the Saska sisters, and Gooding with Mike Barron. Now with ISOM 1, I personally didn't notice too many issues with the art. To me, it seemed pretty solid. Even reflipping back through it, are there a couple background faces that look a little wonky or something? Yes, those were out there, but overall, it looked pretty good. In ISOM 2, there were a couple things that were pretty jarring that I don't think should have made it to the final cut. I think Cliff kind of missed the mark, and he specifically missed the mark with two things. So the first place I think he missed the mark was with the interaction between Santuan and Darren. I didn't even recognize Santuan the first time I was reading through it. It was only until the words told me that he was angry about him losing the fight to Avery that I even was like, oh, that's who that's supposed to be. The big thing with Santuan, I mean, he's on the cover. He's got the gold teeth, showing you those gold teeth, right? That was his gimmick. The fact that he didn't have him throw a smirk in or a smile or an aggressive face that would flash their teeth to go, okay, there's the trademark of that character, these gold teeth. They just didn't do that. He kind of the face is kind of just dead and doesn't have really a lot of motion. It was just, for somebody who was a main character and a main antagonist in book 1 to just kind of be poorly drawn out, it seemed like a complete miss. The other thing that I thought was an absolute miss was the Tardan introduction. You get all of this you've seen all this really strong art from some of the covers, and especially from a lot of the fan art. There was so much good Tardan art out there. And then this is the intro scene you get in the actual book. And it just doesn't look good. I'm sorry. It looks kind of like a weird cartoon, just mush face. And honestly, a lot of the other pictures of him throughout the rest of the book just don't look that strong. So I thought the Tardan face from Cliff was just extremely underwhelming. It just missed that menacing monster look. The rest of everything else was pretty good. I didn't notice really anything else, but the Tardan thing was it took me aback. I was like, what? That is what we could, it looks to me bad. The one thing I did previously compliment was we're giving a lot of little nuggets and hints of what's to come within the story and the overall Rippaverse. But I also would like a little bit more out of some of these conversations. As an example, when Bloodruth brings up the dimensions to Avery, he kind of pokes at it a little bit, but I really thought there should have been more back and forth. In theory, his world potentially is being blown, or maybe he does know, or he does, but it felt like he should be prodding at this a little bit more. He should be trying to extract more information, and it seems vague and uncommittal just because, right? It's just because we don't want to give away that extra information. And I would have maybe preferred Avery to push to be like, no, you got it. What the hell do you mean? Where are these from? What dimension? Being a little bit more aggressive with Bloodruth, and Bloodruth having to kind of put him in his place and be like, you'll know when you need to know, or throwing him just enough to get him off of her tail or something. But it kind of just, we vaguely explain it and it's just accepted as, oh, okay. I would have liked a little bit more there because I feel like that's not how the conversation from Avi really would have went. But I get the writing reasons why doing it, but I don't think it actually fit what was taking place there in the story itself and the way I feel like those characters should have interacted. I mean, you could have argued that with the same thing that Avery should have been a lot harder on Gooding of like, where are you sending me? Who is this person? Like, who, like, what are you going to help me with? How does Gooding not kind of mention like, oh, don't attack the alligators and the monsters that are just kind of there when you show up, right? There probably should have been a little bit more explanation instead of just being like, yeah, get in your truck and go. Good luck, buddy. Those are kind of my critiques. But overall, I did enjoy ISOM 2. I did like it more than ISOM 1 because I thought it was just overarching. It was a more coherent, flowing story. A lot of action, a lot of things going on. It wasn't so much set up in just kind of random little tidbits that ISOM 1 had. So really, I think a step up from a plot moving forward and things happening and, again, more interesting story elements being brought in as well. So I'm still enjoying the Rippaverse world that is being built. I'm enjoying a lot of the characters. I think a lot of the character designs are pretty darn cool as well. Main two standouts always are Bloodruth and Yaira. Just really cool designs on both of those characters. So definitely interested to see where their stories continue to develop and kind of find out what's going on with them. Overall, I got ISOM 2 at a 7 out of 10. Definitely an improvement off of ISOM 1 from kind of what's going on. I think there's definitely still room for improvement. I'm excited for ISOM 3, but ISOM 3 is going to probably still have to be a pretty chunky book, and I'm very intrigued to see how they close out this 3-book arc. Right? Because there's a lot of lingering storylines. I don't know which ones are going to re-come into ISOM 3, but you'd have to think everything that was taking place in 2 should directly have to be resolved in some fashion 3. And right now we got Isom out in the wilderness, just leaving a cave with Bloodruth and Sam, full of monsters that apparently do want to take out these humans. And then you got Darren in the city kind of doing that street level gang stuff and trying to get in fights with anybody who's getting in his way. How do those two things clash together and close out without it being like feeling rushed, feeling clunky, kind of feeling like a sloppy end to this relatively well set up initial arc? In addition to, it will be very interesting to see how Alpha Core and Yaira interact with this first 3-book arc. Are they pre-stories? Are they current stories? That will be very interesting because, as has been said with the Rippaverse, continuity is king. So we'll see how well they do with trying to maintain that continuity. And with that, thank you for stopping by to review ISOM 2, 7 out of 10. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And with that, have a fantastic rest of your evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in this crazy world. And as always, GG's, everybody. GG's. Are you going to interfere the rest of the time? My microphone. What, first time? No, what? What are you doing with those? Okay, are you good? Can I get back to work? Thank you, precious.